by writing a word on this, what do you call this thing, a notepad, an easel, a giant notepad on an easel. I'm going to write it with this dry erase marker, which I'm technically not supposed to do, but I don't care. I don't work here. I'll write it big enough so you can see. Okay. Now, when I first saw this word, I thought of a popular 90s sitcom. I don't know if you did too, but I wouldn't be surprised if you did. What that word actually is candler. What does candler mean? It means someone who makes candles. When you think of typical professions, police officers, firefighters, doctors, all modern professions, a candler wouldn't be one. You think blacksmith, a cobbler, that's kind of the realm where candlers exist. But believe it or not, I actually knew a candler up in Wakefield who's now a city councilor. Go figure. What's so interesting about candles? I was sitting on the bus the other day, and a girl in front of me was reading an article about candles. And I thought, what's so interesting about candles? But I had a speech to give, and I figured if I could research this, I could find a few interesting facts to tell you, I might shed a little bit of light to your day, and give you a little bit of trivia you might find interesting. So the first interesting fact about candles. The first known candles were in 200 BC in China, and they were made of whale fat. I couldn't really picture what this type of candle would look like, and unfortunately I couldn't find anything on the internet to bring in to show you. But I can tell you about a time in my life where I was in Iqaluit, and they use a type of candle called a kulik, made of whale blubber, that I think might kind of fit the bill. And I brought a photo of that to show you. Not sure if you can see it from here, but what it is a soapstone dish filled with this kind of seal fat or whale blubber, and instead of a wick, they would use moss or grass. Because think of Iqaluit, think of Canada's Arctic. It's beyond the tree line. It's so cold, nothing will grow there. So think of these poor yet resourceful Inuit. They have no trees, they have no firewood. It's cold, and it's dark 24 hours a day for a major part of the year. What do? You invent this. If I had more time, I would tell you about some of the other very, very interesting inventions I saw that the Inuit have come up with over millennia. But I don't think I have enough time for that today. The second interesting fact about candles I wanted to impart was that these candlers back in the Middle Ages, so the Middle Ages are between 1300 to 1400 AD. They would go from house to house in their village, going into people's kitchens, collecting the fat from their butchered cows and butchered sheep. They take this fat called tallow, and they would make candles for the residents of the house right there on the spot. That was their service. They were like door-to-door candle makers and candle sellers. But think about these candles. They're made of fat. And in the Middle Ages, no electricity. Obviously, they needed candles. So no refrigeration. You know what it smells like when you chuck an old steak or something in the garbage after a few days? It reeks. It reeks. And now you have entire houses lit with burning fat. Now, this is the Middle Ages. It's not the bastion of personal hygiene we know today. You have night soil. You have dirt floors. People don't shower. And I don't know if toilet paper was invented yet. Food for thought. So that was back then. Now, they did have beeswax. Beeswax was harder to get. But the church had money, and they didn't want that kind of noxious odor spread around. So you'd see beeswax candles in churches and in residences with a bit more money. After that, with the advent of whaling in the 18th century, they found out that sperm whales produced this kind of oil that they could make into a wax, which was harder than beeswax, so that in the summer it wouldn't melt and droop over. But they had to kill a lot of whales for it. Later on, they came up with a way to distill kerosene into paraffin wax, and that's typically what we see today. The third interesting fact about candles that I discovered in my research, following that encounter with the girl on the bus, was that they used to use candles to tell time. Now, I'm not really sure if you can picture this. When I heard of this, when I read it, I pictured a candle standing up like a sundial with the shadows going around. That's ridiculous, I know. What it is you draw lines on the candle to designate the hours, because we kind of know how quickly candles burn and how quickly they melt. So to take this concept to the next step, they would stick little weights in the candle at every hour, so that as time progressed, the weight would fall off and kind of ding into a tin plate, so you'd know what time it is. So there you have it. A few interesting, if not groundbreaking facts to brighten your day. I personally use candles, as I'm sure many of you do. I have some at the cottage for when the lights go out, and they're not bad for setting the mood. The next time somebody asks you, what's so interesting about candles, you might have something to tell them. Madam Contest Chair.